Welcome to Broker Collective, episode 109. Today we have Karan Dhaliwal. Karan is an amazing broker who started his journey during lockdowns, a time when most people want to run away from the industry or at least take a pause and see, when there is light at the end of the tunnel. And he started literally when the lockdowns just started, when there were no cars on the road. And I remember we were a very young brokerage at the time. We were just starting out. And I think he's the first, third, fourth, fifth person, right? And I was admired by his energy. And I went to sit down with him, to talk about what it took him being 21, becoming a broker, going in this space rather than pursuing his college degree and then becoming a broker that he is today in 2026 and where he's going from here. You were 21,
Right.
you come into the broker world.
Yeah.
What inspired you?
Well, actually, I had a call from my friend who said that, hey, he's starting to go to school with GoBC, UBC to become a mortgage broker.
Right,
So I was like, hey, you know what? Let's try it out.
right,
So I got in, did the schooling, passed exams, and right away I had my aunt who knew Amir. So my aunt is a real estate agent. Amir was her broker. And she's like, hey, it's like their office brokerage is really good. I'll get you in touch with them. That's when I think about 3 4 days later is when me and you had a sit down talk at the brokerage there. And yeah, from there the ball started rolling. And the funny thing is I'm still a broker and he's not. So
right.
it's crazy how life works sometimes.
Yeah, who's not a broker?
Just Karan, remember?
Oh, Josh Karam. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I remember that
Yeah.
kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, absolutely.
So he's the
So,
one that called me and said, hey, becoming a broker.
right,
Let's do it.
right.
I had no intention of becoming a broker.
Yeah, that's what like I
And
seem to think like, hey, you're 21 years old. Shouldn't you be, in our culture, well, not just even culture, but our parents or any parents want you to go, go to college, university. So
that's what it was.
why come into, entrepreneurship and mortgage brokering where, the failure rate is
Yeah.
so high, right?
So I
But
gave it a shot and
yeah,
here
you,
we
you didn't
are.
have passion for college,
No.
is what I'm trying to get at.
I
No?
was actually in till college. I was at TRU in Kamloops.
Yeah,
So I was there for a couple of years,
right,
and then I came back, finished up, and
right,
that's when I randomly got a phone call.
right.
So I was like, let's give it a try. Let's get to it.
But why not go in your field where you went to college and try that out?
It's because my family was already into development in the
Got it.
Lower Main and the Fraser Valley.
Right.
I had my aunt who was already a real estate agent. She
So
was
a lot of
already doing,
family
yeah,
influence.
so
Yeah.
she was already doing fantastic.
Right.
And my parents and my brother were already building houses.
Right.
So I saw it kind of working hand in hand.
Yeah. So you kind of thought, okay, if I become a broker, I'll be doing their mortgages
100%.
plus,
That's what it is. And
mortgages
we
out
get to
there.
learn, I get to learn, okay, if we're ever in a situation,
Yeah.
how we can get past it. So if we ever need funding,
Sure.
what banks look at and whatnot
Right.
to make the process easier for us, right?
Right. So it
So
was kind of like, was it family also encouraging you to become a broker?
actually, no family didn't
Okay.
encourage me. I was just
Gotcha.
like, hey, let's do it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I got into it. And then once I told them, like, hey, I'm intrigued into this,
Right.
I'm actually liking what I'm learning.
Right.
And that was just the schooling part of it.
Right.
And they're like, just, yeah, keep going, keep pushing.
Right. So I'll
So,
come back to I'll go back to your early years, but I'm not. So over the years, have you received business from family?
yes, I have
You have,
actually.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot, or would you say?
So my aunt that I was talking to you about,
Sure.
I'm the number one referral
Mortgage
partner.
broker, okay.
Yeah. So every time they have a client that's looking to purchase, it's always me first.
Right.
I'm getting that phone call.
Right.
And even my family in Surrey, we've done their big mortgages during that boom there.
Right.
I'm their number one
Right.
number one broker. So yes, family wise, yeah, I am getting business from them.
Is
Friends wise, probably
yeah,
not so much.
not so much, okay. Would you say you got to work on your friends then? I would say, but would you say some families are reluctant because and friends too, right? Because sometimes they don't want to show you how much what type of credit cards they have, how much debt they might have, and that
For
sort of
sure,
makes
for
sense,
sure.
right? Like
And I'm not saying that every single family member, my cousin,
sure,
whatnot, is I'm the number one broker.
right,
No, that's because when I am calling some people and let's go to my family, they're reluctant,
Right.
right? I kind of do get some pushback where they do not want their personal information being shared because it's within the family.
Right.
So yes, that is
Yeah,
a
and I
factor they're
and I think
considering.
as a good broker, right, I always tell brokers to, draw a line where if you're dealing with family, let them know, hey, your information stays with me. It
Sure.
doesn't go to your brother or your, family member. It doesn't matter how we are at home. I'm still running a business,
Right.
and my before even I get you approved, that I'm going to make sure that your information does not go to anyone, that you're even looking to buy something, so you can be in confidence. And I mean, if you still don't feel comfortable enough, I get it. At least help me with establishing my business. Maybe give me your friends' phone numbers and so forth and so on who are
Right.
looking for
And that's
mortgages.
exactly what I did with a few of my family members and my cousins is I had to let them know that everything is confidential.
Right.
Like I'm a professional, just like how you guys have running your businesses, and that will not be getting shared between the families, even my parents,
Yeah, and there's no
so
hard
on,
feelings. You,
whatever.
you understand,
Exactly.
right? Like, it's just it is what it is. So good for you for bringing that up in the earlier days. And now I remember, you came in into this industry. It was COVID lockdowns, and the world was upside down.
Oh yeah.
Right? A lot of people don't want to go into mortgage brokering right at that time. They probably want to wait 6 months. Why would you take the leap of faith then?
I feel like that's the best time is when
Mm,
the failure rate is the highest, right? And the market was I wouldn't say dead, but it was at a standstill that time
right,
before the boom came in.
right. For the first few
That's
months, yeah,
that's when I was able
absolutely.
to sharpen my tools, learn from you, learn from Nav, learn from Mike that time,
Right,
and I sharpened my tools. So when the shift did happen in about I would say what 4 weeks, four
right,
to 6 weeks, my tools were already sharpened where I was able to bang deals like this,
right.
right? And that's the help from you, Nav, Mike,
Yeah.
and
And your own hustle. I'm gonna be
right,
honest with you, right? You're out and about. I remember you would come to the office, I would see you and I was like, this, young kid. I wish I had that kind of energy when I was 21, right? Like, maybe I did, but I didn't go into mortgage brokering for sure. Maybe I had other roles, but you were hustling. You were
right.
hustling each and every day. It was, no different than, any other broker who's come out the gates and have done really well. The one thing you see in common that they just don't give up. They keep
Right.
going at it. They're learning, they're finding out the system structures, how someone communicates the sales piece and the whole 9 yards.
That's the biggest thing. I
Right.
still remember till this day when there was lockdown, there was a ghost town in Surrey. There was not a single car, but I was still showing up to the office.
Passing me COVID,
Yeah,
I
give
said.
you COVID. You probably don't even know it. Even when your door was shut, I was standing on the other side of the door just trying to figure out how you're talking to people
Yeah, I
and
remember
picking
that.
up things,
Yeah.
right? Seeing how Nav talks to people,
Right.
talking to their clients and what objectives and how they're maneuvering those
Right.
objectives. And that's a big part of my learning curve in the early days to doing what I'm doing today is
Right.
if I didn't have that, then it would have been a different story.
Right.
But that's what I picked up on, and those were just my little tactics.
Right. So what would you say, of course, COVID was one of the things which was, not in anyone's control. But what were your struggles or what struggles did you find that brokers who were in similar shoes as you were facing? Was it marketing? Was it sure you were getting support on how to communicate, how to deal, the sales piece, all that kind of stuff? But would you say that there were some challenges, family we talked about, but was there some challenges you were facing or not
My
so
probably
much?
biggest challenge was how to structure a deal
Hmm.
and the underwriting.
Right,
Those are my two biggest. Marketing, I wasn't so much worried about, but it was more so structure how to structure a deal
right,
once it's in at your table and how to underwrite it
right.
properly,
Yeah, you're very
right?
presentable.
Yeah,
You're the market,
yeah, yeah. So
and
I
the way
wasn't
you carry yourself, the way you talk, walk, right? Like, that's what marketing is
for
too,
sure.
right? And, so underwriting was the biggest piece. And then how did you overcome that, that struggle?
Overcoming that struggle was basically, like I said, it was either you helping me out or it was Nav. And I believe Nav was a big part of my
Coming on
success.
top of my chest now.
Yeah.
I
Nav,
I love
you and
hearing that
Nav.
someone saying, "Hey, the brokerage helped me
Right.
underwrite
Right.
deals."
Yeah.
I'm like, Thank you, thank you, thank you." It wasn't just the lenders. Actually, in fact, the brokerage helps more, and nothing to take away from lenders. But we make sure that when we take on someone young as you, who's ambitious and's got to get ahead, we have a responsibility to you. But anyways, carry on,
For
Karan.
sure. So yeah, you and Nav were the top people that help me underwrite deals. I think after Nav would be Mike.
Yeah.
Mike always answered my
What a
phone
great
calls.
guy. Yeah.
Amazing person.
Yeah.
I remember when we were about a team of 6 to 7 people in that small
Sure.
half
Yeah.
brokerage,
We
which is
were.
full now.
Can you believe it? One time we're a big young
I know,
broker. It's
it's
like
crazy.
unbelievable. It is crazy.
And he used to go through the paychecks of my clients and tell me how to calculate them.
Right.
And he'd help me calculate the year to dates
Right.
from, so say if we're still into 3 months into the year, he'll help me how to calculate, okay, by the 12th month in December, what the year to date will be looking like. And he's like, here, this is how you maneuver it.
Right.
So you three were probably the top biggest help for me to how to
Right.
underwrite deals.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And, it's a good, very big compliment for people working into the brokerage, not just people inside the office, but brokers, the brokerage willingness, but then brokers' willingness to help each other. And I know you're doing the same with other brokers at the moment. So then walk me through, 2020, you come in, you work hard, things have done really well for you. And then where do you go from there? Have you like over the years, what I'm trying to figure out, have you ever regretted the decision of becoming a mortgage broker?
I've never regretted the decision of becoming a mortgage broker. I never thought about what I could have been other than a mortgage broker.
Amazing.
I always love helping clients out, depending on whatever situation they are in.
It's such a fun
That's a
industry.
bit
Yeah.
my thriving is being able to help someone, get them out of a situation, whatever situation they're in, get them out of it,
Like
and
it's a
help them out.
challenge. It's a
That's a challenge.
challenge.
And in today's
Yeah.
market, that's exactly what I'm doing.
It's even a bigger challenge
Even have
now
a
than
bigger
ever.
challenge
Yeah.
now. So now I'm trying to figure out ways and get creative on how I can help certain clients with certain lenders, pull them out, get to another lender,
What is the exit?
right?
How they're going to come out of
Or
the
if they're about
private or
to go into a
something.
foreclosure, how I can help them out so they
Right.
can stay in their house. That's what keeps me going.
Right. So over the years, the other question I had was over the years, how a lot of brokers you will see, and including myself, they are on this trajectory and then procrastination hits and then let me take a vacation and let me take some time off, and nothing wrong with that. You got to have work-life balance, but they go through, and it happens to everybody. It happens to the best of the best people I've talked to, including myself, but I've talked to the top 5-10 brokers of the country. Many of them I'm friends with, and I see this, they go through this phase. Did that happen to you as well?
It actually did happen to me,
Good. Well,
but
then I asked the right question.
it did happen to me. I was starting to go into a slump there, but then I thought to myself, hey, I just need to keep going.
Right,
So if I go on a vacation motivates me to work harder.
right,
And most of the times I am working on vacation.
right,
There were times where I'm on the other side of the world in Indonesia and I'm still banging out deals,
right.
which is like the time difference. So I have to be up in the
Sure,
middle of the night there
sure,
just because lenders are up here,
sure.
right? But I did get into the little slump there, which is so easy and you can
Right,
keep digging at a hole
right,
and keep going down and then it's harder to get back up,
right,
right? It's much harder to dig yourself out of the hole.
right,
I did get into that slump for a little bit, and then that's when I just put my mind to it, say, hey, we're gonna just keep grinding it out. If your phone's not ringing, you make other people's phone ring,
mm,
and that's what I had to do.
yeah,
Tap into my database, tap into my network,
right,
and once the ball's rolling, then it starts rolling
right.
again.
Amazing. Yeah. I remember, yeah, if I remember, we talking about if your phone's not ringing, you got to make others' phone ring. But is there something specific to get out of this? Because what I'm trying to understand is, everybody has their own sort of path. One is, hey, I have this problem, I got to deal with it. And then, I am not taking action, I'm sitting at home, I'm binge watching Netflix, TikTok or whatever that may be. But what got you out of that? Like, was it just like sheer movement? Sometimes for some people it's gym, for some people it's waking up early. Well, where was your struggle, would you say?
So it was actually both of those. I'm a big gym enthusiast. I love fitness, so my fitness came down,
Right.
and during the early days, I was
All
getting
those things are all like you
right.
see,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
single matrix starts coming down.
Everything
Yeah.
starts coming down.
Yeah.
During the boom, I was getting up at 5 in the morning, 4:30 a.m., getting the gym done, and then I was coming into the office. So that started to slow down there as well. I was waking up
Right.
later, and So that's when I realized, like, and I was getting in my comfort zone a lot.
Right.
So whether that's just sitting in my house,
Right.
I could be sitting in my house in my office but not doing any work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And I think there's another shift. Yeah. Just like what you said, right? And then there's another shift. I don't know if you would agree with me, but I see it in brokers all the time when we're talking to brokers in the brokerage. They're doing well, then they kind of, slow down. They're doing well. It's a busy market, and then the market slows down. And now they're expecting their phones to ring, people to keep calling them, that, phenomena still happening. Hey, I'm putting 10 offers for the property. There's 10 offers, and I'm putting one of them, and they don't realize that market has shifted. Now, you'd be lucky if there is one offer on 5 homes. And if there is one and your client is dealing with, and your client is the buyer, you're going to have to pretty much, follow up with them and be there. And, you're going to have a lot of brokers chasing the same deal, and banks and so forth and so on. Right. So I think it has a lot to do in the recent times with that as well.
For
Not more
sure.
so beyond brokers control, because it's sort of like it is in brokers control, but you have got to have that mind shift.
For
I'm
sure.
getting
For
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, during that boom when I started off, I didn't need to make the phone ring. It was ringing on its own.
Yeah.
But now you have to adapt to how the market conditions are and how the market's going, whereas you have to make other people's phones ring,
Right.
right? You just have to pick up the phone and make it ring, and eventually you'll get something out of it,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Yeah, you have to change your marketing strategy entirely, completely differently,
definitely.
absolutely.
And another biggest thing I realized is staying in touch with your clients, staying in
That's
touch with your
so
leads.
important,
Right now,
unbelievably important.
I'm talking to my clients about 3 times a day,
Good stuff.
right?
Good for you,
Just
man.
making sure that,
Absolutely.
hey,
This is what we literally preach, when we talk, with
the,
you and everybody else. But
and
yeah,
it's working. It's
yeah,
definitely working. The more you're in touch with them, the
right.
more closing ratio will go up,
Improve.
right?
Yeah,
Improve.
yeah,
So that's number one, I think is huge. And the second thing is with leads, following up with leads.
right,
Not once a week. I used to do that before.
right,
Hey, I got a lead, talk to them once a week,
right,
and then next week we'll follow up.
right.
Now it's about once a day, seeing where their mind's at, seeing how I can help them, whether that's sending out emails, sending out text messages, or sometimes even just chatting with them on a personal level.
Right. I want to quickly touch upon past clients, right? They're already your raving fans. You've already done business with them. You don't have to really do a lot. All you have to do is pick up the phone and literally say, "Hey, Karan, how are you, bud? Just wanting to check in. I was thinking about you and kids and your, family." And that's about it. You
Okay.
just gotta do a soft touch point, right? Be genuinely interested in getting to knowing them, and they will take care everything for you.
For
When they're
sure.
gonna hear the word mortgage, whether they're, at a wedding or at a friend's social gathering, your name is going to pop up. They're going to
Yes.
say, "Hey, that guy you need to call. He's the best in the business," because you've gone above and beyond. Most people will keep business at very surface level, where it's very transactional,
Yes.
right? I give you a product or I give you a service, you pay me. So, but when you pick up the phone after that transaction is done, you have opened up a new layer of relationship, right? You have opened up a relationship of friendship and care, right? And people don't seem to get that. Sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, and sometimes in our business, especially in mortgage business, there's a lot of heated moments, right? A
Sure.
client's going through a lot of stress, right? They're buying a house, there's family pressure, sometimes there's, finance pressure, there's monthly mortgage payments and down payments and bank docs, and there's a lot going on, right? And finding properties, right?
Okay.
Finding the right home which fits for your family or for your needs. So when that's kind of all done and settled, and you pick up the phone and it's there's no transaction happening between me and you, that will go miles than any of the work you'll do during those 2 or 3 months. So, good for you. And I would say to any broker out there, we preach this in the brokerage: go through your database,
That's
pick
the
up the
biggest thing.
phone, talk to these people, get to know them, get to know their family members, their kids, and that's all you have to do, right?
Right.
It is a community at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you said, tapping into your database, it's not always just about business. You can touch with them on a personal level. I remember a time where I was helping one of my clients out, and their son had gone through an accident. And closed that deal, got it done. A few months later, I think it was 6 months, 7 months down the road, just picked up his phone and said, "Hey, how's your son's doing? How's your son doing
Unbelievable.
now?
Good stuff,
I
man.
remember
Good
that he
for
had
you.
gone to an
Yeah.
accident. How's he doing now?"
Yeah.
Just on a personal, touching base on a personal level, and I think
Right.
about a year or two later, they ended up giving me 3, 4 referrals.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Because think about it, right? Like, we go somewhere. Let's say we go use someone's services today, and God forbid something happens to one of us, right? Or family or something. Life happens to people. And then somebody picks up the phone and says, "Hey, I heard about it. I'm always here." It's just there, something that's all sometimes you need, right? You need people's support. And someone's going out of their way. They don't have to do it. The transaction is already done, right? But good for you, for taking those steps. And that's why you are still a broker after
For sure.
that many years in the industry, still in your 20s. I can't believe I'm saying that. You've done really well,
Yep.
and that's one of the reasons. So now, 6 years in, you've kind of went up, you had that stagnation, kind of dropped a bit, picked it back up. Now, where do you go from here?
Just keep tapping into my database here, learning the policies. You can never know a policy inside out. So getting in touch with the lenders, meeting
Right.
them in coffee. I'm doing one today with Jackson from Equitable Bank.
Good stuff. Yeah.
That's right after this. I'm heading over there to sharpening your tools. So
Right.
whenever you do have a file, you know exactly where it's going. You know
Right.
exactly where it's going to fit into. And that's something you had told me. Hey, whenever you do have a deal, you should know where it should be going right off the bat,
Right.
in the back of your mind.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing right now is sharpening the tools. So
Right.
whenever there are deals coming in, you know exactly where to go, how to position it, like you said,
Right.
positioning your client, how to position the deal, and that way you underwrite your deal correctly,
Right.
right?
Sometimes I would see, a culture being out there, not in our group for sure, not, we are brokers like who are unbelievably good and they have very strong relationship with their lender partners. But you see, oftentimes people will come to the brokerage and they're being onboarded and they're like, "Oh, my brokerage didn't give me do this, didn't do that." And I'm thinking, like, you also had lenders, right? Like, why didn't you pick up the phone? Because why these deals you're talking about went sideways,
Yeah.
right? What was your effort, right? So not only someone like you saying, "Hey, I have all kinds of support, I did have it throughout my career, but I still am maintaining my relationship with lenders." Because yeah, it is true, sometimes you're going to get a file, I may not have the answer. The coaches team, the brokerage, any other broker you talk to may not have the answer because they might not have worked on that type of specific
For
deal.
sure.
And then so much changes in lenders too on the back end, right? We often forget about it. Let's say I sent a deal in, it was turned down 6 months ago. That does not mean the lender will turn down that deal today because now they have appetite for that type of deal because they've shifted their, underwriting policies on the back end, right? They're much more lenient. They're willing to go up to maybe a certain loan to value in a certain neighborhood. But in my deal, maybe there were other variables which when you ask me, "Hey, Asim, would they go up to 75 or 80 LTV in an IMO?" And I might say, no, but, I'm thinking based on my deal. But your deal, your borrower, his net worth, all of that is way different than my client who had a beacon score of 580 maybe,
For sure.
right? So no, good for you. So are you planning on doubling, tripling your business in the next 12 to 24 months?
That's my goal. That's
Yeah,
written down.
good.
And the one way to do that is having a relationship with lenders, and whether
Right,
that's tapping into my database, my
right,
network. It's also friends and family, for sure,
right.
obviously. Like you said, friends I need to work on a little bit more.
Sure.
So that's my next goal. And then sometimes I love door knocking just
Right,
to get the name out there. Some people may not be thinking about mortgages,
right,
and just to tap in with them, knock on the
right.
door, have a nice little conversation. And yeah,
Have you done door knocking before?
yes, I have.
You have? Okay,
During
good
the
for you.
early days,
Right.
during the
We
early
talked
days,
about it. I
yeah,
remember. I'm
yeah,
just asking
yeah.
you while I'm talking to you, I of course know about all of
I
this, but
remember the
yeah.
time, I think it was that time it was COVID, and I was like, "Hey, Asim, can I start door knocking?" And you're like, "Maybe not right now because of COVID, so
Yeah,
wait a little bit." And that's what I did. So I started door knocking then, and then obviously the market got super hot, so I
right.
started focusing more on underwriting deals and closing those deals. And now I'm picking up the door knocking again, whether that's handing out door flyers, door knocking, and etc.
No, good stuff. Good for you, Karan. I'm inspired by you. I'll tell you, I'm being honest with you. You're in your mid sort of late 20s. You've done really well. You started really early. I am jealous that I wish I had started that early. Sure, I achieved many milestones over the years, but this is one of the things that we're finding now, and it has to do with the introduction of cell phones and information, and that people are taking a leap of faith much earlier. But not everyone's succeeding,
For sure.
right? It doesn't mean just and not everyone's understanding what it takes. But with you, it seemed like you kind of had that understanding, seeing your family being in development and real estate, and you kind of saw that grind, and you understood that what it is going to take you. And then you're coming in, maybe I was I'm blessed to hear that I was able to mentor you and a few others, and you were seeing, but then you were executing though, right? Regardless who you were seeing and mentoring it, being coached by, it was you still executing. So, Karan, if you have to start all over again, going back to 2020, what is some of the things you might have done differently?
Some of the things I probably would have done differently is learn the products more, the lender's policies. I felt like I lacked that in my early years. Second of all, learning the underwriting and getting that down. I remember you saying that there's no book for underwriting. It's kind of learn as you go. But those are the two biggest things that I lacked on. And the number one thing I would say is the policy though.
Right,
So I would, going back to those times, I would have all these vendors set up for meetings, whether it's Zoom calls or coffee meetings. Learning their policies is the biggest thing,
right.
I feel like. And I feel like every broker might think that they know each policy, but that's false.
They don't,
They
right?
don't.
And as you said, uh, there's a lot of broker kits out there, and lenders have done a really good job, but it's still is very limited information. It's on one piece of paper. Hey, we do these 5, 10 things. And but we know there's a lot more to a deal than those 10 things. There's few thousand things or few hundred things, or more or less in a specific deal. If you haven't done underwriting, it's sort of tough, and it is one of that type of business where there's no sort of manual. If you all these 20 pieces you put together, then there's a deal which could go to this lender. On the surface, yes, but as we were talking earlier, lenders change quite a bit of their policy internally, which you might not be aware of, right? Their risk appetite, their capital allocation, and things of that nature. Even though they might have it in their policy book, but if they have internal shift within their, based on market conditions, you're not going to know that, right? And it's only when you submit a deal that's when you find out the answer. What is one thing you would say that gives you satisfaction anytime you close a mortgage?
It's just seeing the excitement from my clients.
Mm.
So the couple referral partners that I have as in realtors, they mainly deal with first time home buyers. They might be the most stressed while they're getting the mortgage because they're making a really big commitment that they were never made before. And just to see the process of their emotions from getting the first initial phone call to having the file approved to the closing and the completion of it, it's just, it's beautiful.
It's
It's
unbelievable.
unbelievable.
Put yourself in their shoes, right? When you bought your first home,
Yeah.
the level of emotion you had gone through, the level of pride, even, right? The level of, ownership, and, that, hey, this is our space, right? There's so many different layers to it. And, yeah, I was going to say probably mine would be debt consolidation, because you see, but I don't think it's even remotely as close to someone buying their first home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. And I think the emotions are even higher once they have given that deposit.
Yeah.
Subjects have been removed.
Right.
Sometimes clients think, oh, subject removed, the deal's done, it's completed. In reality, it's not yet.
Right.
So that's what brings me satisfaction. That's what keeps me going.
Right. The deal is
Is
done when you get the keys in your pocket.
in your pocket,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes the
Unbelievable.
vendor can pull up something else or whatever. Hey, we're requesting this document now.
Right.
So until the clients don't have the keys in their hand, deal's not done, like
Right.
you said.
Right.
But just seeing all those emotions, and at the end of the day, once you are on possession days, when I usually go meet them, give them a little gift, and just seeing their reaction, their facial expressions, that's what keeps me going.
Right. Yeah. No, I remember, there's I remember seeing your work while they are going through that purchase, uh, they're going through that transaction between a subject role and completion, how much hand holding you do on a day, weekend, on a consistent basis, right? It's so important, just by still being there. Again, it
Right.
goes beyond just doing the transaction.
Right.
Sure, you've gotten an approved, conditions are met, the lender's not asking anything, but you should be being on the phone asking them, hey, how are you feeling? Do you have any questions for me? Right? Can I help you with something? And, it might be, no, thanks for, and they're going to probably tell you, no, thanks for checking in. We know we appreciate it. But now you have literally went above and beyond of your, what you were supposed to do. And you've given a level of care that most people may not.
Right.
Right. And this is how you want to be. So good stuff, my man. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's
Thank you
lovely
for having
talking to
me.
you.